Hey everyone, welcome back to In the Alley. My name is Cody. Glad you guys are back for another video. We have two games on Friday kicking off at the same time, so let's hope that multi-view is finally ready to use on the Indoor Football Network. Alright, so two things about this. One, I'm hoping I can get over here so that way I'm more centered in the frame when the preview pops up. And two, we need to talk a little bit about stats. Now, Snipback AI was announced back in February as kind of the live stats AI generated thing with replays and how the league is going to move forward with, certain ways of doing things, which has led me to believe that they've put everything into the hands of AI, and it's the reason we don't really have stats right now. And that's also another comment that I've seen, that they've kind of, used a different software than what they've used in previous seasons. So I can really go off of only what the previews, recaps, and kind of Sports Coast to Coast has kind of done their thing about it. So I don't know if they watched the games and made their own stats, or if they're going off kind of the same thing too. There's some discrepancies in some of the yardage and stuff like that, not by much, but regardless, it's just kind of along those lines. So let's start it out with our preview between Quad City and Massachusetts. 6:05 p.m. kickoff, as always, on the Indoor Football Network. Sign up. I think there's still a 30-day free trial. They said something about it being free through the end of March. So there you go. That's what we have. Season leaders, Daquan Neal. He is the Offensive Player of the Week last week. 12 of 16, 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. I believe he had 3 touchdowns on the ground as well. So I don't have his rushing stats for the passing yards, but he also ran 3 touchdowns. He's a pretty good runner too. Kenji Bahar, I don't know his stats, unfortunately. They could be up by now, but not the best day at the office for him, but it was his first Indoor Football League game. So all things considered, not bad, but I think he was picked off a couple of times, I think 3 times to be exact, and just not the best day, but he'll learn. Rushing yards, I put Jared Ware here. He had a good outing for this first game with Quad City. All things considered, he had some chunk plays. When the defense of Green Bay started zeroing in on Daquan Neal, they were able to get it out to Ware. He was able to bust off 5, 6, 7 yard runs every now and again. Puka Williams, another guy who had some really good runs, 14 attempts, 46 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns on the day for him. Pretty good debut for the former Jayhawk, and really, I look for him to get even more involved as the season goes along. Receiving yards, I've got Davion Johnson here. He might have had more than 1 catch. I'm not entirely sure, but he did have at least 1 catch, 30 yards and a touchdown. A very, very good touchdown. So I put him here. I know that Travell Calvin, Jordan Vesey, Kevon Rudd, they had probably multiple catches along those lines, but ultimately I did like that play. So I put him there, and we'll see what we have when it comes to more receiving yards, more players and stuff like that when stats do start getting generated. And then Puka Williams, I believe is on Massachusetts' website that he was the leading receiver for the Pirates last week, 5 catches for 31 yards. Again, pretty good day at the office, all things considered, for Puka Williams. We'll probably see more of him in this game as well. Injury report, nothing new for the Steamwheelers, and then only Javon Tucker is added for the Massachusetts Pirates, short-term IR on March 26th. Our game odds, Quad City is the underdog, plus 1.5. Massachusetts favored, -1.5. Over-under of 80.5. And then money line, slightly juiced over to Massachusetts, -120, with a plus 100 for the Steamwheelers. We are at the Songus Center in Lowell, Massachusetts. Again, Indoor Football Network, 6:05 p.m. kickoff, and our head-to-head is 3 against 3. So Massachusetts actually winning the last game, week 16 of 2024, 52-35. So with that, let's go take a look at our 25-man rosters, bets, predictions, carry on. All right, so 25-man rosters popping up over my face. As always, we start with the away team, and there's not really anything to report for Quad City. No changes or anything along those lines. Daquan Neal going to be your starter. Jared Ware most likely going to be your starter. And then your starting wide receivers last week, if I'm not mistaken, or at least your receiving core, was Travell Calvin, Davion Johnson, Kevon Rudd, and Jordan Vesey. Offensive line remains the same as there's only 3 of them. Your defensive line, Kadir Shepard, David Cagle, and Keyshawn Moore. David Cagle wore 52 last week, so it could be, maybe that's his new number. If he's 22 this week, there you go. Arslanian, Mr. Bubba Arslanian is your linebacker, and then your defensive secondary, Trey Smith, CJ Parrish, Chris Chukwuneke, Malik Duncan, and Cameron Harrell. So all things considered for this team, not really much changes. I mean, if they put Chimadunga in, take out a defensive lineman, maybe get Deion McShane or Devonair Conliffe in there and take someone out. Maybe Geno Appleberry gets a start. I'm not entirely sure. And I forgot Kyle Kaplan down there at the bottom. Shout out kickers. Maybe Brian Lee slots in, but otherwise they might just roll with the same 21 that they had last week. For Massachusetts, they've made a couple of changes. Bahar is still your quarterback. Puka Williams is your running back, more than likely. But Dominic Roberto is signed as more of some depth at the running game. Tio Redding, Isaiah Coulter, Thomas Owens, and Isaac Zico are your receiving core. And like we talked, Javon Tucker's on short-term injured reserve. So Dominic Roberto pretty much replaces that. Nick Ford, Jordan McCray, Navon Donaldson for the offensive line, and Ryan Johnson is in. Tommy Champion is out. I believe Champion refused to report, so Ryan Johnson has been signed. On the defense, Dominic Kewen, Jablonski Green, Guy Thomas, DJ Dale, and Terry Beckner. If I'm not mistaken, I think Jablonski Green was the only one that didn't play last week. Kewen, I believe, was the reserve. Guy Thomas, Dale, and Beckner, I believe, were the starters. So on the linebacking side, we have Voshan Joseph, but it was actually Sal Lapoli who got the start at the linebacker position. I look for him to probably start again, but we'll see if Voshan Joseph slots in for that position. In the secondary, it was CJ Holmes, Matt Elam, Marquise Waters, and Marcus Floyd. We'll see if Donnie Lewis gets in there as well. Actually, I think Lewis was in there, if I'm not mistaken, but either way, that secondary is going to have someone as an odd man out. Will probably be on the reserve as well, and that's how we just kind of go with it. Your kicker is Timmy Bleakroad. Not the best day at the office for him, but again, I have mad respect for any kicker that can kick accurately in this league. It's the football, the narrow goalposts, everything like that. So again, not the best day for him, but we'll get there. So let's go take a look at our bet predictions and a little bit of like keys to the game and stuff like that. All right, so bet prediction, and like I said, keys to the game. I'm just going to kind of talk about the game a little bit and how I think it's going to go. I have under 80.5 as my main bet. I think both teams are going to run the ball, and it's going to come down to the defenses trying to make stops and forcing turnovers. And Massachusetts was able to force some turnovers, but their offense also gave up quite a few turnovers. And can they shore those things up this week will be a big thing. If they can handle the ball, if Behar can look a little more accurate, then Massachusetts could look pretty good in this game. For Quad City, they looked pretty good right off the bat. I mean, there's some things that they need to correct, obviously, but the running game looked good. The passing game looked good. The defense probably needs to get a couple of takeaways. They had a chance at a couple last week, and that's where we're kind of at. Special teams for Massachusetts, don't give up a kick return touchdown. Maybe the game looks a little closer than that. And we'll kind of see how it goes for that. I don't necessarily expect a kick return touchdown here, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is one. Ultimately, though, I think this is going to be a very defensive style game. Both teams are going to look to establish the run. With Puka Williams in Massachusetts, they're going to want to run the ball to try and set up the pass and take a little bit of heat off of Behar, and that way he can get his confidence, whether it's some short curl routes, out routes, quick slants, whatever the case could be, to try and build some confidence. If he wants to take some deep shots, he can. Kind of the same thing with Quad City. We saw last week that Daquan Neal was not afraid to take the deep shot early and often. I mean, he was throwing it to the end zone a couple of times there, and there were also some crossing routes, curl routes, whatever you want to call it. He was able to 12 of 16, so he was pretty accurate last week. So like I said, if both offenses are clicking, I need to see the defenses step up too, and I think they will. That's the reason I have under 80.5 here. I think both defenses will step up. We might see some takeaways, but I look for Bubba Arslanian to kind of be the catalyst for the defense, and if Sal Lapoli can kind of do the same thing for Massachusetts, both linebackers trying to dictate how that goes. It'll be up to the secondary of Quad City and how that goes to kind of neutralize the wide receiving core. And if you can really make Massachusetts one-dimensional, see if you can put it on Puka Williams to win you the game. With that, I do have a close one here, almost an over, but not quite. 41-37. I think Quad City takes it. Still just a little bit of a learning curve for Massachusetts, but ultimately not surprised one bit if Massachusetts wins. It's a very close game. It's the reason why it's a 1.5 point spread. I think Quad City is just a little bit more primed right now. All right, preview number 2, 6:05 p.m. Central Time kickoff, again on the Indoor Football League Network. I'll shell it out every time. Subscribe to it, sign up for it. If you guys want 30 free days, go for it. If you don't, well, I don't know what you're really doing here unless you just want to see highlights after the games are over, I guess. But Indoor Football League already provides that, so cool. Anyway, let's preview this game. Iowa kicks their season off at Green Bay. Green Bay already has a game under their belt. Unfortunately, it was a loss at Quad City last week, but we'll talk about it. Season leaders, we do not know who the starting quarterback is for the Iowa Barnstormers. Niall McLaughlin and Joaquin Collazo are battling for it. I do not know if they will split reps in this game. I thought I remember Dave Mogensen saying that he wants to do that to kind of see if one has an upper hand, but memory's a little hazy from reading that a few weeks ago. Passing yards or passing leader for Green Bay, Max Myler, 2 touchdowns on the day to him, 1 to Zane Lewis, 1 to Lil Patron. And yeah, I mean, I don't really have his passing numbers, but he did pass the ball pretty well. I mean, the offense was kind of humming, especially when they started going tempo in that second half. So they were pretty good. I mean, I look for a little bit more. We'll see what they can do, but we'll talk about that when we get to the bets and predictions. Rushing leaders, Hunter Clayson. I'm going to call him Clayson because I don't know if that's his last name or if it's Classen or whatever. I'm going to call him Clayson. Hunter Clayson, he's the only running back on their roster. I don't really expect too much in the running game. They will have to use it, but they want a pocket passing quarterback, and we'll see how that goes with it. And if Hunter Clayson can run some draw plays or some pitch outs or whatever, it's not like he's going to be immobilized, but at the same time, if they use him like they did last year, like Rob Washington or Paul Garrett, they're not going to run the ball that much. So we'll just kind of see. For Green Bay, I don't know if Mack or Myler had more rushing yards, but I put Joshua Mack here because look at that photo. The dude screams aura. So yeah, I mean, you can't just not have a photo like that in a preview and not post it. So kudos to that. We're going to keep that as long as we can. I don't care if he's third on the depth chart or even cut. You can't have a photo like that and not expect me to put it on here. Receiving, Kean Williams. He's going to be the do-it-all guy for Iowa. Kick returns, receiving. He'll probably run some jet sweeps, goal line sweeps, stuff like that to get into the end zone. I expect kind of some big things out of him. They're going to have the offense kind of go around him. Like I said, more of a pocket passing, probably an air raid, pro style, kind of offense here for Iowa. So he will be the guy, which you don't think Green Bay's defense is going to try and zero in on that and the receiving core. We'll see. For Green Bay, I've got Zane Lewis. I don't know if it was him or Lil Patron who had more yards, but kind of like what he had in the first quarter. He kind of faded the second, third, and fourth quarters, but he was always around, and I'm not expecting a huge breakout or anything like that, but if he can kind of replicate what he was doing last game, he's got a pretty good season ahead of him, so we'll just kind of see. But either way, whether it's him or Patron or Andre Williams or whoever the case could be, they've got a good receiving core in Green Bay. Injury report, Iowa has nothing. I haven't seen anything at least. And Green Bay adds Devin Johnson to the season injured reserve. So you look at that, it's 3 offensive linemen and 3 wide receivers, either on short-term or season. Not looking good for the Green Bay Blizzard when it comes to injuries, and they've only played 1 game. Take a look at the betting odds. Green Bay is favored by 5.5, an over-under of 81.5, and money line is juiced to Green Bay 192. Iowa, the underdog, plus 160, and a 5.5 point underdog on the road. Speaking of on the road, we are at the Resch Center in Ashwaubenon, Wisconsin. Again, 6:05 p.m. kickoff on the Indoor Football League Network. And our head-to-head, Iowa and Green Bay are tied at 15, with their last meeting being Week 11, 2024, with Green Bay winning 54-40. So, with all that, let's go take a look at our 25-man rosters, bets, predictions, all of that. All right, let's talk about 25-man rosters as they appear over my face. Talk about the away side first, the Iowa Barnstormers. A lot of rookies. I think there's only 6 or 7 players that have indoor football experience on this roster. So let's talk about it. Niall McLaughlin, Joaquin Collazo. We have a rookie at quarterback. We have a rookie at running back, Hunter Clayson. And then your wide receivers, they do have some indoor experience. Keyshawn Taylor and Keon Williams are re-signed from last season. Shaq Currington, he comes over from the Arena Football League. He has played in Green Bay. He has played, I believe, in Tucson. He's played in a couple of other places, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, there is some experience there, at least on the wide receiving core. Jalen Bracey and Caleb Hood also signed for the receiving core. I believe they are rookies. Paul Fay comes over from Quad City. And then Desmond Bissett, Rodney Luckett are both rookies signed, if I'm not mistaken. Tyler Castaneda, I believe, is also a rookie. I could be wrong there, but I believe he is. And he is actually traded. He just got traded from San Diego over here. So I don't know if he's going to be on a flight, if he's going to play. Whatever the case could be, he just got traded. So we'll see. Defensively, Tyler Tate is re-signed for another year, and then it's all just kind of fresh. Patrick Godbolt, Rashad Colson, Gabe Smith, Josh Ellison, all, I believe, rookies on that defensive line. Kadri Jackson, he replaces Ian McBurrow, another rookie. And then in the secondary, Jared Sod is re-signed. He's only played a couple of games with him. And then Jaleel Brown, Caleb Street, Isaac Duffy, Larry Walker, Darius Harper. That's, again, it's a very, very raw roster. Say that 5 times fast. Anyway, with only in Gabriel Rui at the kicker, shout out kickers, with that amount of inexperience, it's going to be a steep learning curve. It will be, and we will see what happens. There's a strategy. We will see if it works out. I'm not going to say that like the defense is going to have too steep of a learning curve. You can stunt, you can twist, you can blitz outside the alley, so that's less of a learning curve than what you had to endure last season or seasons ago. So maybe that helps them out a little bit defensively, and maybe there is some veteran leadership that can step up on the offense and kind of go with it. For Green Bay, not a lot changes. There are a couple of changes, but not too many. Max Myler is going to be your starter for the quarterback. Joshua Mack, most likely for the running back. And then Zane Lewis, Lowell Patron, Andre Williams, I believe, were your starting wide receivers. Terrell Casey rounds out the wide receiving core. And then, obviously, up above, I didn't mention them, but Kamani Clark, TJ Davis, I believe those 2 guys were reserves from last week. So there you go for your offense. Jake Parks, Roderick Williams, Andrew Carter, and then Justice Smith is signed. So with Devin Johnson on season IR, Justice Smith, former Jacksonville Shark, former Northern Arizona Wrangler, he comes in. He's able to hopefully make an impact there offensively. On the defensive side, Sue Kamara, Rashawn Williams, Tamaje Porter, Allen Henry, and Akeem Smith. Nothing really changes there. We'll see if they run out the same defense. Sir Zion Dance is your linebacker. And then your defensive secondary, Nigel Canada, Mamadou Mbai, Kevin Ransom, Andrew Perkins, Cale Jackson, and Narion Washington. Andrew Mevis is your kicker. Like I said, on the offensive line, there could be the change, but other than that, I don't expect too much to change from Green Bay. I like what I saw from them last week. They just came up short when it mattered, and we just kind of go from there. So with that, let's go take a look at our bets, our predictions. We'll get on out of here. All right, bet and prediction. This one, it's kind of obvious. I'm going to take -5.5 for Green Bay. Just a lot of inexperience for Iowa. And I have said it in multiple previews. I am not a fan of the pocket passer quarterback. For some teams, it can work. For other teams, it doesn't. And I don't think Iowa has really solved that. They kind of went pocket passer last year. It worked and it didn't, and they didn't finish above 500, and if they keep doing it, I don't know. So I'm taking -5.5 for Green Bay. They are at home. They were a deuce away from tying Quad City and sending it to overtime, and who knows what could have happened. Their offense looked pretty good when they went up tempo or when they went no tempo, and they were able to string some things together. They were testing quite a bit of stuff out. I think another week and a game under their belt, they're going to look pretty good in this one. Iowa has to travel, getting up to game speed for some of these rookies. Some can excel in it, some cannot. So I just have a lot of questions. It's kind of a wait and see for Iowa. Could they surprise? Sure. Could they cover the spread? Sure. I have no doubt in my mind they could. I just don't think they're going to. Could they come out and win? Sure. I just don't know. That's how big of a question mark Iowa is. So with that, I think Green Bay is going to cover. I think their defense is going to really zero in that secondary with Mbai, Ransom, Canada, Washington, whoever. I think that defense is really going to zero in on those wide receivers. If they can make Iowa one-dimensional in the running game and force them to run the ball or try and run the ball, it could be lights out pretty quick. On the flip side, if Iowa can get that passing game going, if their defense can step up and stop the running game of Green Bay can still kind of chuck it around there. So I think Green Bay has a little more, variables that Iowa needs to worry about instead of the other way around. So with that, I think Green Bay, like I said, they cover the 5.5. I have it 36-28. I do think it's going to be a little low scoring. I think through it all, Iowa can score points, but I do think Green Bay is going to run the ball, control the clock, and hey, if you're going to run kind of an air raid pro style, you don't have the ball, you can't chuck it around. That's what Green Bay does. They like to run the ball. They can get Joshua Mack, Max Myler, Kamani Clark, whoever, jet sweeps, whatever the case could be. They've done this offense for quite a while now. So 36-28, it could be a little bit higher on the Green Bay end. We'll see, but that's what I have it. So let's go wrap everything up, get out of here. And that is it for our Friday night preview. I am hoping that the multi-stream is working for this week because I would love to have both these games going at the same time, but we'll just kind of see. But I'm excited for both these games. 2 Eastern Conference games. I do like the little rivalry between Quad City and Massachusetts. It's not a big rivalry by any means, but they do go back and forth quite a bit. And then the huge rivalry between Iowa and Green Bay. They are tied at 15 apiece. Pretty excited about this one. We'll see if Iowa looks more improved than they were last year. They keep building a little bit. We'll see if it's more of the same. Green Bay looks to crush their dreams. Like, again, they're going back home licking their wounds after losing to Quad City. There's an opportunity for a get-right game for the Blizzard. So, all things considered, that is it for me. I'm going to take off here and kind of go take an allergy pill and stop my eyes from watering and my nose from running. So, with that being said, I'm taking off here, guys. I love and appreciate every single one of you. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Do what you want to do with it. I make the videos because I love you and I love the sport. Get the stats right. Do all that stuff. I want to see all the stats. Come on, IFL. Get it together. Get the betting lines out so it's not 6 o'clock on a Thursday night. Do that too. Let's get it going. Shift it into gear, guys. But anyway, take off here. I'm already freaking delusional from this freaking taking this allergy pill and all that stuff. So anyway, taking off here, guys. Love you. See ya.